Welcome to the Sermon B-Side Podcast, a podcast of Liberti Church in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Sermon B-Side is designed to be a resource to answer your questions and to go deeper into the conversation started by each week's sermon.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberti B-Side Podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Wright, and I'm joined today for the last time for a while. One and only Matt Looloian. Matt, how are you doing on this fine Monday morning? As you know, tomorrow you're departing out on your sabbatical. So how are you feeling?
Yeah. I think I'm excited about the sabbatical coming up. It's just been one of those last few weeks, kind of a sprint to the finish line of like much of life, and certainly like almost all of ministry. There's never an actual finish line where you feel like the work's all gotten done. It's just like it's time to stop because it's time to stop, not because the work's gotten done.
Yeah.
So we're getting stuff as far as we can and hand it off, and really thankful for our teams. I'm thankful for our staff team. I'm thankful for our deacons, our elders at Liberti. It was really sweet yesterday during prayers of the people for the elders and wives to pray over me and Shay and our girls and our family, just send us off to the sabbatical.
Yeah.
Really, really grateful for that. And looking forward to having these months ahead to be in a little bit different rhythm of life.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm excited for you to be able to pull back and have some unhurried time and maybe read a couple books and, do things that give you life. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thanks.
But as you mentioned and joked about yesterday, you didn't leave without a bang, if you will.
That's right.
From that perspective. Although you also said talking about money from the pulpit is the least effective way to actually disciple ourselves in the area of money.
Yeah.
So, your last sermon in 2 Corinthians and before you go out on sabbatical was about generosity, and really a continuation of what Jordan kind of teed up last week in chapter 8, and this week you're in chapter 9.
Yeah.
So what did you really preach about yesterday for our people, Matt?
Yeah, and 2 Corinthians 9 is that continuation of chapter 8. Really, in a way, the 8 and 9 serve as this kind of letter within a letter, like the donor letter within the broader letter of 2 Corinthians. And chapter 9, the way I talked about it was the blessings and benefits of generosity.
Yeah.
Even backing up, the chapter 9 fairly nicely divides into these three parts, of the first 5 verses being about the cultivation of generosity.
Yeah.
Verses 6 through the first half or so of 11, verse 11 is more about the blessings of generosity. And then the last part of chapter 9 is about the benefits of generosity. And so that's how we broke it down yesterday.
2 B's.
1 C and 2 B's, couldn't quite get the full alliteration and wasn't worth trying to force it. It's Money May, so we have a built-in alliteration to the whole month. So I felt like I was covered fully by that one alliteration.
Notice that Money May is not in the Bible study sermon application document, everyone. But
we all know it's there in spirit.
It's there. Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
But that was yesterday, and just really of all the potential applications that there could be for sorry about that. Of all the applications that there could be for money, to really just say, look, let's make this part of our actual discipleship and Christian community. Let's actually talk about it more than we would naturally be comfortable doing. And it's one of these areas in life that is still really taboo. In Christian discipleship, it's still really taboo to talk about any specifics as related to money.
Right.
Where things that used to be very taboo have become less taboo in many respects. Talking about certain sin patterns, talking about mental health, those things have become way less taboo.
Yeah.
And I'd say we've grown a lot, broadly speaking, in authenticity as Christians in 21st century North America in the last few decades on a lot of fronts.
Yeah.
This is one I think it's lagging. It's the tail of that authenticity and discipleship conversation.
Yeah, the quote yesterday that the wallet is the last thing to be baptized.
Yeah.
Who was that from again?
Yeah, it's an author named Greg Gibbs.
Yeah.
And a few of us at Liberti, our deacon Matt Hess and one of our other elders, Michael Doleslager, and I, the three of us read a book by Greg Gibbs last year about generosity, about cultivating a generous culture in the life of a local church. And there's some great statistics and all kinds of stuff in that book, but that was one of the quotes that jumps out from that book.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I think a church like ourselves, there's a lot of different places that we can kind of rabbit trail in this discussion of generosity. Everything from, what you talked about yesterday, like clothed righteousness that really is like just hiding behind our own greed and self-absorption, or even padding ourselves and our families, all the way to like the extreme side of generosity, of giving away everything and like not caring for yourself, for your family at all. There's and ultimately, I think the big thing that I think our Bible studies are going to gravitate towards is one where we have a question about, and it's that idea of going off of autopilot and recruiting a co-pilot. So I think we're going to have a tendency in our Bible studies to want to skip there. So from your perspective, where should our Bible studies maybe start, or really kind of lean in a little bit harder to prepare themselves to be ready for that discussion in their Bible studies this week?
Yeah. The first and second questions of the Bible study application questions get more to what you're describing there, which I would encourage you, like you said, to not dive right
to the rabbit trails or the application of this.
And I think one that could easily get overlooked, but this is the actual the pathway to heart level transformation in generosity, is to actually thank God for his inexpressible gift. So to even talk about what does gratitude look like to God for the grace that he's shown us, is really the thing that's going to move the needle in our hearts to become more generous, to actually see how generous God is and how generous God has been with us, and to trust that God will continue to be generous with us. That's the whole backdrop for what Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 9. So even to take a little bit of time in your Bible study group and say, where are you grateful to God for the grace that he's shown you? Where are you grateful to God for the gifts that he's given you? When's the last time you've really sat and just enjoyed the generosity of God and rejoiced in it? That's the part that I think could get skipped over pretty easily in this. I mean, we tried to talk about it yesterday, and I tried to really hit that point at the end of the sermon in particular of this donor letter is unique in that it doesn't end with thank you for your gift, Corinthians. It ends with thank God for his gift. So it's this sense of like that's where generosity at the heart level comes from. So I would live there. And then the second question is about, even challenging our perceptions of what a blessed life is. And that's one where we're just so susceptible to be formed more by our culture, by our world, than by Jesus, and then by what Scripture actually talks about is a blessed life. And so to really challenge your thinking and bring to the surface, because it usually just lives in the subconscious, it usually just lives kind of behind the scenes in our hearts and minds of what we think a blessed life is. And those are great things to flesh out that will then, of course, shape some of the discussion about autopilot and co-pilot.
And I think that's helpful. I think my one question before we pivot from Bible studies into our listener questions, which we only have one. My question maybe is, how do we identify, because you mentioned in the sermon yesterday, it's become more and more normalized to talk about our sin, except for this area. So how do a bunch of people that are uncomfortable with this and desire to care for their families well, that like it's a good desire, but how do we know when our desire for financial stability and protection of good things has bled over into greed and self-preservation? So how do we actually know? What are some indicator lights, I guess, of the soul and mind and body that kind of like should be indicators for us to know whether or not we struggle here?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's hard to speak in these broad brushes without talking to somebody individually about how they think about that. Because there are folks that are just really comfortable not having any money really stored away or live on credit card debt, and so to them, they're already thinking like, okay, I'm not worried about my family, and we'd be like, maybe you should be paying off your credit card debt and not in debt like that, and should be hustling. That's the right next step for you in terms of how to be faithful with what God's entrusted you with. Whereas other folks, it's like, well, $1 more is always the amount that I need to have saved up for providing for my family. So I think where people are is going to be all over the place on this one. I think that there definitely is, with discipleship in community and this idea of like we need to have people that know us at the specific level of numbers, is why is it that you have this specific number in mind, that number is there for? Because that number, once you have that number in mind, that number tends to be the thing you functionally trust the most. That tends to be the thing that you've put actually the eggs in.
I think that's the question behind the question. Do you trust more in the money you have saved,
right?
Versus that, everything that you have is a gift from God, and therefore your dependence is there and not in the substance of the money itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so how anxious you are about the future in general is a litmus test for that. No matter how much money you have, you could have more than 95% of the upper middle class Liberti church families.
Yeah.
You could be on that end of the range and still be one of the most anxious people about not having enough for the future. And that would be a heart level indicator of, hey, I'm functionally, I trust in my own ability to have what's there when that time comes, as opposed to, I want to be prudent and wise. I want to use the resources God's given me well. One of those biblical uses is not just meeting today's needs, but having some to meet tomorrow's needs. There are some good proverbs to wrestle with there. But I'm still anxious about the future all the time. And the person that's trust is functionally fully in God wrestles with anxiety. It's not like we're free of anxiety in our life, but doesn't live at the baseline of, I'm always anxious about the future.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. Let's transition into listener questions. So you gave the basically big overarching challenge of taking yourself off of autopilot and moving towards intentionality. So maybe really quickly, could you speak to that really quickly? What does it look like to transition from being on autopilot to let's be more intentional with how we think through using our money out of that outflow of out of God's generosity to us as a blessing. It's not ours; it's His, and we get to use it to bless others. So how do we think about like actually transitioning from autopilot to intentionality? That's my first question.
Yeah, it's great. I love that question. I mean, one very practical thing would be, if you haven't done a kind of review of your budget for a long time, that would be a great way to do it, is to go back to your budget. And even as you go back to your budget, if you already have kind of always had like, well, it's this percentage that I give to the church. So let me start there and then I'll kind of work my way down from that. Like before you just plug that number in to your budget, say, that's maybe what I've thought about for a long time. Should it still be that? Should I, let me actually really think about this more. Because and I don't want to overlook this. If you're at a spot where, for example, let's say I tithe, I'm a tither. I give 10% to the church.
Right.
That's fantastic. And you're already doing, by comparison, you've already grown a ton. You've taken some significant steps in your discipleship there to be giving that regularly and consistently.
Yeah.
I don't want to not encourage people for the growth that has happened in their life, which is great.
Yeah.
But the way that we can sometimes then think about it is like, okay, well, as long as I get that box checked, the rest of the money is mine.
Right.
Do whatever I want with. And the whole point of stewardship, generosity in Scripture is, no, it's all God's. It's not just that you give 10% to God and the rest is yours.
Right.
It's all God's.
Yeah.
Some to be used directly for your benefit and some to be used directly for you for other people's benefit.
Yeah.
And you have to, so I can even framing that way. But the autopilot piece could even be things like, this is some stuff that like Shay and I have been talking about recently. Like we tend to give digitally and not in person. And that's really convenient and helpful. But is there a way that we can practice more regularly the fact that we are giving? Like should we be putting an envelope of something in the offering basket every week that goes by? It's just even a tangible physical practice of like even though we're not physically giving in this moment, it's just part of it is a rhythm of our practice, even if we've got it set up on the back end.
Yeah.
Or even how do we, for as parents of kids, how do we model generosity for our kids when most of our giving's done by automatic bill pay? The world we live in and the convenience of it, which is so good, has these unintended ripple effects of,
the formation piece of it.
Yeah.
Embodying it.
Yeah. So even that stuff gets to be on autopilot. It's like, it just comes out of my check every month. It comes, we have it set up in these automated, not just autopilot, automated systems that we don't even think about it. And the point is to think about it.
Yeah.
I think one thing, like just practically for us, I thought about sharing this yesterday and just didn't have enough time to do everything. But one of the most helpful things practically for our family in the last year was adding a budget category called blessing.
Yep.
Like and for us, I mean,
we've done this too. Yeah.
And in the spirit of being, what I said yesterday about making this part of our discipleship, for us, it's been for this year, $100 a month.
Yeah.
So maybe for you, that's like, that's crazy. I could never afford that. Maybe if you're like, oh, that's nothing. I could definitely do that.
Mm-hmm.
$100 a month. It's not preset to go to like one of the places we give to regularly.
Right.
And it actually has just even changed our outlook. Like we're now finding ourselves proactively looking for ways to bless people in a way that has very much taken things off autopilot. Because now it's not just this passive, in the background. Well, like some goes to the government, some goes to the church, some goes to buy, Social Security. Some like it's active. It shifts our whole mentality on active. So that's a practical thing to take it off autopilot, something like that.
So there's everything there from like the percentage that I'm giving. Like, how do I feel about that? Like, does it hurt me to do that?
Sure.
Like, is there a
pinch? Is there a
point yesterday? Is there incremental growth here, or have I just defaulted to what I'm comfortable with? Is a good question. To the is there a way that we can build generosity into every sphere of our life, thinking of our money as a gift to be used from God and not just a small percentage of it? I think those are good questions to kind of like help frame that discussion. Let's move to what I think everyone is going to really be thinking about, and it's this concept of, okay, you told me to recruit a co-pilot in this process. And I think in a church that have a lot of strong marriages and families, I think that married people can too easily assume, oh, I have that in my spouse.
Sure.
I think we need to talk about that. So, but but we have a listener question. So they go, what are some things we should consider when picking a co-pilot to help us look at our monetary giving? So Matt, like maybe what's a basic framework when you would think about this idea of recruiting a co-pilot for this process?
I think the best co-pilot is someone that you're already doing relational discipleship with. Especially for a topic that is taboo, is harder to be open about and less private about. If there's already people that you've taken steps of opening up your life to vulnerably, that's going to be the most natural person to keep walking into this part with. It's just, hey, take the next step of vulnerability with people that you have some trust and some time with. So those are even two pieces. Trust and time help a lot here. The person that you just started Bible study with this semester that you don't really know that well at all is probably going to be the hardest person in the world to just be like, hey, here's my budget. What do you think about it? Because you don't know me. And you don't know what my journey's been the last number of years that I've been trying to take incremental steps.
Right.
I've had these job changes that have created, or I've had these medical issues that have created all kinds of financial issues, or there's the more time you have with someone, the more they know your life, the more they're able to be patient with you, gracious with you, like Paul is with the Corinthians, but also bring the appropriate challenges and the encouragements to help you take those incremental steps of faithfulness. So I think those are really key pieces. It'd be really hard to recruit somebody you had zero relational background and time with to do this with. So if you have none of that anywhere, then what I would say is I'm more concerned, for you that you get into relational discipleship relationships than that you get to the money part tomorrow. Get into a place where you're talking about your life honestly, openly, vulnerably, inviting input. That's the baseline for this. Most of this recruit a co-pilot yesterday is an encouragement to people who are already pursuing that and maybe have been for decades in some cases, but have never gotten to this part of discipleship.
So, what would you say to my question before this? So the person that is married that's automatically assuming I have this in my spouse, what is your encouragement or challenge, I think, to that population of people? And then maybe encouragement and challenge to maybe our single friends that may not know where to look for the co-pilot. I know you mentioned think about someone you're already in relationship with, but it might be helpful for a single person to navigate this with a married person that has different perspective and different responsibilities, if you will. to kind of like push each other in good ways. So any thoughts about those two things?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's not to do an end around your spouse in
No,
like
no.
as not at all. But like as a husband and wife, if this is not part of your
If you guys aren't doing this
Yes.
kind of thing together,
then
maybe that is
you
an
should start.
step for
Sure.
this year to pursue.
Yes, if and certainly in most marriages, one spouse tends to be the like more naturally wired to do the money stuff than the other. There's a few rare
Me.
there's a few rare couples that they're both all in on it, and there's a few couples that like not both of them hate it. But yeah, certainly if you're not having that as part of the discipleship of in your own marriage, that would be a great incremental step, is to have more honest, open dialogue and push each other as a husband and wife in the context of marriage. But assuming again, so that like it's hard for me, and I've learned over years to try to not assume that. So I didn't get really specific into the co-pilot thing yesterday.
I'm forcing you to,
which is great. But so I don't want to assume that your marriage is open and honest about finances. I hope it is. I want it to be for you. I think that's what God would call us to in the one flesh union. That would include how we do money together. So that should count. But so if that's not the case, start there. That's a great step for a co-pilot. You have a co-pilot in your spouse. Step into that more.
Yeah.
If that's happening, which I think probably is true for many marriages in our church, great. Love that. That's the encouragement is you're doing something really well.
Yep.
Good work. Like truly, receive all the encouragement and affirmation that comes with that. And also, that can be an echo chamber. That can be very quickly a cul-de-sac bubble. That can be, idols can get baptized into a family unit too, not just an individual person.
Yep.
And so finding, whether it's a single person, whether it's another couple, finding a co-pilot in that sense of someone else that you can do this with. And again, the most natural people to do that with, if you've built good friendships, discipleship relationships with people that are fellow Christians, those folks would be the natural people to extend this part of discipleship into. So, and I do think, to your point, there's a great opportunity here for some cross-pollination. From people in different stations of life.
Intergenerational and like stations of life.
Sure. And even like the learning that can play out back and forth there. Married couples that have just gotten to a place where, we're in a season of life where we kind of now assume that life costs this much to do, not even realizing maybe how much they've ratcheted up the quality of life kind of stuff in their minds, even unintentionally over many years. And they go back to a single person that's still thinking like, no, I can do this a little more gritty. And vice versa.
And that can really push on those little. But what you don't realize is become an ultimate thing for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of really cool opportunities to do that. I think if you can find someone that's older and wiser to speak into this, that's been further down the road and you think has done generosity well, I think that's fantastic. But it's not the kind of thing that we can just do like a speed dating kind of thing and say, hey, everybody, come to an event and we're going to pair you up with your co-pilot, so to speak, for money. Because it just wouldn't work.
I mean, we could if we wanted to, but no one's coming to that event.
No one's coming because it's alrery such a lift to be open and honest
there
about
will be
this.
Like 10 people that come.
Yeah, we'd have a few that get excited about that. Yeah. But the more you can do this as a natural extension of discipleship relationships that you're already pursuing for all the other reasons we need that in the Christian life, that's the place to lean into it.
Yeah. Last question. This is a shorter one. So since this is like probably a new thing for most people, to be willing to invite other people to have eyes on your actual numbers of finances. Are you actually recommending that with a co-pilot, we should be like, here's a whole budget, poke holes? Or, is a good place to start more high level of here's how much I make, here's the percentage of how I'm giving, here's where it's going. We also do this generosity fund. And if whether I'm single or married, here's how I think about budget planning and checking in with how I'm doing. Is that, maybe that's even too much detail. What level of detail is a good place to start, I guess?
Yeah, I think that any of that's fine. Yeah. I think you can go at the speed of the relationship. I do think that if you've never done anything like this before, it's fine to start at the broader level of, hey, here's the income I'm at right now. Yeah. here's how I've thought about generosity. Here's what the last number of years have looked like.
Yep.
In some ways, it's almost like what we do in a spiritual sense of telling our story of how we came to faith in Christ, what God's been doing in our life recently. When we do these snapshots and in covenant entrance days, I think it's doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just giving some specificity to it, not just saying like, yeah, I've tried to be generous. I give some to the church. I give some. It's like, no, get a little more specific.
It's the actual numbers of where things are going. Yeah.
Yeah. I try to save this, even if you're talking in percentages to start, you're getting at least into some of the real numbers. You're like, I try to give this percent.
Yep.
I try to save this percent. And then budget wise, I make this, budget wise, I try to spend at this level. Here's how I think about that.
Yeah.
Those are, I think, great places to start. I think as you get into it even further, and there'll be some people that have been pursuing doing the increased generosity thing for a while. And they've been trying every year to increase the amount they give away to other things, which is incredible. That's exactly what the Christian life is. There's going to be some people that get to the hard question, like to me, this is like a little insight into where I'm at in this right now is how much saving is too much saving? How much should I save for my kid's college account or not? How much of that is what is functionally trusting God to provide look like on those numbers? That's so like I'm at that spot in my life of what do we do on that front? So some of our conversations might be, I need to actually tell you how much, for my co-pilot, how much I give, how much I'm saving for my kid's college education, how much I'm saving for, putting into a retirement fund. And do I need to like take that off autopilot? Because that gets to be on autopilot too over a lot of years. So I think there could be a whole range, including, no doubt in my mind, there's folks in our congregation our size that have significant debt that they're trying to pay off, credit card debt, consumer debt. So like you're going to find people at all different places. And just to encourage you, like that's the church. That's like the Corinthians were all over the place, I'm sure, in their own individual lives. And so we need people who are able to meet us in the places that we are right now, to step into what God's doing in our life right now and to keep helping us pursue faithfulness. The old style, like, there's a lot of benefits for programs like Dave Ramsey, for Financial Peace University. We've hosted those here at Liberti before. The way that the church has talked about generosity some, the way that they talked about money some, has been more about debt alleviation than it's been about increasingly radical sacrificial generosity.
Right.
And so in a way, if you've had this perspective because you've been in the evangelical church for a minute, that like once you get your debt paid off and once you're living not paycheck to paycheck, you've now checked the box of financial stewardship. Like now you've arrived.
Well, and there's sufficiency built into that
for sure.
A little bit too. That is we should probably be guarded against.
Yep. Oh, for 100%. And that's a part of my sermon was certainly kind of directed at a perspective like that, the autopilot thing, where just being free of your debt and then doing whatever you want with your money. That also, don't assume that that's faithful either. Don't assume that that's the finish line that God's had for you to be like, okay, now you're good. Now you've arrived. And so, but there's a whole range there. Some people, that's where they are. That's their life right now. They're in debt. They need to get out of debt. They need help. Let's help each other do that.
Yeah. That's helpful. Yeah. And it's tough when you give an application like this, when there is such a variance. Of people are. But I do think the cross-pollination thing and the continuing off of relationships that have already started thing is just like really, really helpful places to maybe even start wrapping your head around what would it even look like to even healthfully do this and not just recklessly do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think we can recklessly do it too and overshare and like go there with someone that we're not there yet with and all the things. And that this can be very messy and hard to calibrate as well. So I think like to maybe kind of sum this sermon up, it feels like treat this like any other area that we have in our church of rhythms of grace, where if you're struggling to pursue something, you can't go from 0 to 120 overnight. It feels like the thing where the marker is faithfulness, and so it's like, what's the next incremental step to generosity that we can take? Would that be an accurate maybe summation of where we should be in Bible studies and in community this week and beyond, Matt?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the piece of the first part of this sermon of the cultivation of generosity of Paul. He could have just shown up and been like, okay, guys, giving time. And it could have gone really badly because it would have felt exacted. It would have felt like he's having to force it, pressure it in that moment.
Yeah.
He's patient. He sets them up to win. He knows they have a desire to be generous. And I think baseline, a lot of our people at Liberti have a desire to be generous and do pursue generosity. So which I'm so grateful for. So it's in relationships, let's be patient. Let's cultivate generosity in each other and stir one another up to acts of good works, to good service.
So in some ways, is your sabbatical your patience with us? So maybe you come back your first sermon back, you'll talk about generosity again.
You know what? I actually will, which is crazy because it's.
I didn't even know that. I'm not even looking at the calendar.
No, we're going to do the Who We Are series in August about who we are as a church, and I had to. The one day we had to cancel for Snow Day this year was when we were trying to finish out the parable of the Good Samaritan.
Yep.
Back in January, and I was teed up for that Sunday, that Snow Day, to talk about generosity as mercy, because we talked about mission as mercy and service as mercy and generosity as mercy. So August 2nd, we have Stephen Wood here from Liberti River Wards to preach about church planting and strengthening.
Next Sunday, right?
And then next Sunday, I'm gonna finish out that series, since we didn't get to do it in January.
So listen to that. So Matt's sabbatical is just
ended by generosity.
Patience for us to grow in making incremental steps toward generosity.
That's right.
He'll come back and just be like, "How'd you do, guys?
How'd you do? Yeah, catch me up." Catch me up.
So let me know. And so that's really, man, that's so funny.
Yeah. You didn't know that, but that's the first sermon back when I'm back from sabbatical.
At the sermon calendar last week, so I probably did read that at some point. But
in the meantime, there will be other sermons, not just about generosity. You'll have plenty of other things to chew on. I'm excited for for finishing out 2 Corinthians. There's a great lineup. Some of our elders are taking the next few weeks. Joe Marlin, longtime church plant partner from Gloucester City, Jersey. He's going to be with us the end of May to close out the book, which will be great. Yeah. Combined series with Midtown and Community during June and July.
Yeah. We'll have Pastor Bob Pinchett hitting a couple times for our lay elders that can't, be here on Mondays to report.
So
we'll be served very well in our Bible study group and in the pulpit, but we will miss you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to miss you guys too. We're really thankful for the chance to step away, but it is really nice to have a season of just feeling like we're not on call all the time. We're going to be off the clock. We're going to be, barring extreme emergencies, unreachable. But we love Liberti Church. We love the people of our church, and we're excited to be back in August.
That's great, man. Yeah. Cool. Well, friends, this has been another episode of the Liberti B-Side Podcast. Thanks for the one listener question. We'd love for you to continue sending those in. Even with Matt gone, B-Side will continue. Yeah. The show will go on. So I will be here again next week, same time, same place. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Sermon B-Side Podcast. For more resources and information about our church, visit www.liberticamphil.org. That's Liberti with an I, camphill.org.